Today you are invited to join me with your favorite tea. Here I have the Marie Antoinette roast tea, some seasonal fruits, strawberries or other ones you prefer, some cream if you want to. You can also choose Marie Antoinette's favorite dessert like a baba au rhum or some meringue. And we are going to chat about Marie Antoinette's approach to fashion, the mystery of her wardrobe, who was her favorite fashion designer of the time, her favorite colors. So Marie Antoinette, in the last decades of the 18th century, as you know, has been described as a fashion icon that all women wanted to imitate and to dress like her. Outfits, clothes at Versailles and in Paris had a very important function, especially for the nobility and for the court at Versailles. So they were very important. And what is so special and unique about Marie Antoinette is that she's going to break all these rules of the grand habit à la française, this very structured and very uncomfortable clothes, and she will whether prefer comfortable clothes or very extravagant outfits and also hair, as you have seen, of course, in engraving. She was very famous to have once in a while some very complicated and high wigs. Each season, all her dresses were going away. They were not belonging to her actually, so she was just wearing them for a limited amount of time and then they were going away. She only kept her muslin and her percale dresses, the very light one that she would keep for many years, but all the dresses belonged to her dame d'atour, her lady who would take care of her wardrobe, and she had 5 different dames d'atour during her lifetime. And the dresses belonged to them, so they could do whatever they wanted with these dresses. So all her dresses were organized in la Garde-Robe des Atours. So it was really her closet for her dresses, all her outfits. It was organized in 3 big rooms with closets everywhere and some big large tables, so that the servants and those who were taking care of her clothes could put the dress on the table, put them really wide, brush it sometimes, or do the little cleaning they could do. They were of course not putting her dresses in the washing machine, as you can imagine, and they would fold them in some way and usually the tables to take care of the dresses. And the fabric also is very interesting, very different from our modern polyester, viscose and all those boring plastic fabrics we have in our modern days. It was velvet and fur in winter, satin in spring, gauze, taffeta and light silk in summertime. And when we dive into the vocabulary of all these fabrics and all the variety of different fabrics they were using for the dresses, it is very, very interesting and very poetic too. All these words are completely forgotten. We don't use them in the modern language these days. Only historians will remember these words. For example, a blonde. Of course, blonde is the same word than to describe a blonde color of hair, but it was also the name of a silk lace. And this, you see it a lot. I saw this word a lot in different memoirs I read of other ladies from the 18th or early 19th, and they talk about blonde very often. And I was always confused to know what it was exactly. And this blonde word means this very delicate silk lace, and the color of the lace was a little creamy of this silk they were using to do this lace. It's the reason they call it blonde. I I like this one very much. It was étoffe glacée, iced fabric, and it's very evocative, some iced fabric, and it came from the fact that there was some silver or some silk thread or some gold thread inside the fabric, which gave this idea of iced fabric. Now, we cannot talk about Marie Antoinette without mentioning her favorite fashion designer, who is really the ancestor of the haute couture in France and all the main fashion designer which was so popular in the 20th century. She's really their ancestor, and her name is Rose Bertin. And the next time you come to Paris, you will have a thought for Rose Bertin and her shop, which was located in la rue du Faubourg Saint-Honoré, which is right now the street with all the famous Cartier, Hermès, Lanvin, all the international fashion brands too. So it's in this street that she started with her own shop called Le Grand Mogol. And before she was introduced to the Queen, she was already very popular among the courts and the nobility in Paris, so she was not new. But of course, knowing Marie Antoinette made her even more popular. She became extremely famous and the most famous fashion seller, creator in the 18th century. And the reason of her success is her unbelievable creativity and her big sense of business and affairs. She knew what she was doing. She had a very good opinion of her skills, and for this reason she started to create a very big fortune for herself. Marie Antoinette even introduced her in her own cabinet. She was receiving her inside her cabinets, which was really against all propriety and etiquette, and she was called La Ministre des Modes, the Minister of Fashion. So it's really her who created La Haute Couture, the ancestor of the modern haute couture, with the rapidity of new collection coming very, very often, so that all her clients would come back and purchase her latest creations. So this is her who introduced this concept of, we can't say fast fashion, it wasn't fast fashion, but of collections and of things which had to be updated quite often. And she also introduced all the accessories, and one of the accessories which became very, very popular in France in the late 18th century was the fan. And Paris became the capital of the fan. So the fan could be made of very different materials, always very precious. It could be ivory, mother of pearl, gold, silver. It was a real art to make fans. They could have some feathers. And the paper, which was actually the main part of the fan, was painted with some gouache by some artist painters. And of course, the fan became a very important accessory for seduction, in balls, used in balls or in parties or things like that. And all women of the time liked to use their fan as a fashion accessory, but also as a seduction accessory. You may be familiar with the colors Marie Antoinette liked, especially around her at Le Trianon, and the pastel colors, all that. But there are a few things you may not know. So she liked the color vert d'eau, which would say probably mint color, which would be close to a mint color. She wore a lot of white, as you know, and you may have seen in her portraits. She also liked all the lilac, mauve, very light purple color, and she stopped wearing pink color at 30. At the time, you change colors as you grew older, and you stopped wearing certain colors at a certain age, which is really sad, and I'm so happy we are not in this time anymore. I absolutely adore the past for so many reasons, but sometimes you find that a little strange that you couldn't have any color at any time. So usually at midlife you change colors. When you were a little even older, you would wear brown or dark or gray or boring colors. So it's the reason she stopped wearing pink when she was 30. But what was really funny, there is a color she wore a lot, and Louis XVI gave the name to this new color. So they created new colors, which was a color mixing a bit of purple and brown. And Louis XVI called this color puce, which means in French flea. And it became a big trend, this puce color. Every fashion shop or fashion creator in Paris was inventing some variations of clothes with this puce color, and they created a wide variety of nuances and words to describe this color. There were, for example, cuisse de puce, fleece tight, and there was ventre de puce, fleece belly, vieille puce, old flea, or scared flea. Puce effrayée. And among other words they also described for colors, you had la boue de Paris, Paris muds, it was the name, I suppose, of a brown color, and there was also the color London's ashes, probably invented after a fire in London. And Marie Antoinette's favorite patterns were floral, and she also liked stripes that we called at the time zébré, so she liked some zébré sort of patterns. Now you may wonder, where are all these wonderful outfits we see in all these beautiful paintings? Where are all these clothes right now at this time where we are? Where can you see them? If you wanted to see some dresses belonging to Marie Antoinette, where would you have to go to see them? And if you are wondering, the reply is nowhere. The dresses are nowhere to be found. The dresses didn't belong to her, so they were belonging to la Dame d'Atour, who could do whatever she wanted once the season was over, and Marie Antoinette would have another collection of dresses coming in her 3 big rooms in her wardrobe. So after the Revolution, the very last dresses that remained were sold, and for nothing really, didn't make a lot of money at this season. Marie Antoinette was not really a trendy value, so she didn't make any money. But before that, even before that, many years before that, once the dresses were réformées, so they were out of the closets, they were sold to fashion sellers in Paris, who would completely transform them, use a detail here and there, a lace here, and would use them to create a new outfit, new clothes, which were a little more easier to wear for even noble women, but who would not necessarily go to balls at Versailles every day. So for maybe slightly more simple outfits than the very extravagant ones Marie Antoinette was wearing when she was at Versailles. So to this day, the only way we could see what she was really wearing was her portraits, the drawings and engravings which have been made at the time, the memoirs of those who knew her, the witness, who sometimes described her outfits, and some samples in big books where they were collecting the samples of her dresses and the fabric they were using. But in 2018, a historian who works at Versailles found in the archives, as he was doing some research, and he was collecting tons and tons of documents in the notary documents, in the notary archives, so some very boring things to do actually, but totally randomly he found a description of all the clothes she was wearing when she was a dauphine, so when she was 16 years old. And her Dame d'Atour just died when she was 16, and a document had been made to collect and to describe all these clothes which were belonging to la Dame d'Atour. So it was her legacy really, and to say how much were the value, just like her furniture really, in her castle, because this outfit, all these clothes, didn't belong to her, they belonged to la Dame d'Atour. So Madame de Villars was her Dame d'Atour at the time, and this document about all the dresses she owned had been found. I'm pretty sure I have shown this book in a video previously, but it's a very interesting book. I'm not sure it is translated, and it is called Dans la Garde-Robe de Marie Antoinette. It was published in 2018, and in this book we find all the description of this document with all the very precise and detailed list of all the outfits she wore at the time. So at 16, it's not the clothes she had her entire life, it's just at 16 years old. So for example, you had une autre petite robe habillée, son jupon de taffetas fond blanc, vert et rose, prisée et estimée à la somme de 64 livres. I'm going to translate the next one. Another little dress with her taffeta underskirt, white, striped with green, with... Well, there's a vocabulary I can't translate because it's very precise, fashion and costume, period costume vocabulary which I don't know really well, but it's all her clothes. So everything from the underwear, the bonnets she had, everything is there. So it's really interesting for historians, those who are passionate about historical and period clothes, who would like to replicate maybe something we are sure she really wore. You could find all the description here, and it's very moving. You also have the little piece of fabric she was cleaning her hands with, for example, when you were washing your hands, next to the place where you were washing your hand, you had a roll and a piece of fabric around it, just like now, when you could have a roll of paper and you take the piece of paper and you dry your hands, and it was called a frottoir, and it was in muslin, so very eco-friendly, and she had, here we know, almost 100 of them. Of this. Every time she needed to clean her hands, she could dry them with that. So you have all these very interesting details, which really tells a lot about her, well, the life, and explain to you a little better how all this was working. So if you are interested, I think you can still find it on all the places where you can find international books. Probably on Amazon you can find it. Even now, it was published just in 2018, but I would really recommend it if you speak a bit of French or understand a bit of French and you would like to know more about that. This book actually inspired me, my workshop, the Marie Antoinette and the Garde-Robe workshop. Once I read it and I knew I wanted to do something about that because it's so interesting. And if you are interested also in outfits and paper, and maybe you would like to create the imaginary wardrobe of Marie Antoinette, which is completely destroyed now, and you would like to have it in your home as your Marie Antoinette, you can join the Marie Antoinette Workshop right now. There is an early bird offer which will last till May 19th, so you have a few more days to take advantage of this offer. You will find all the details about it just under this video on my website, on my workshop website, learnthemagic.paper.com. We are creating this blue dress, which is inspired by the painting you have seen of Marie Antoinette. We have a royal cloak behind, we have few accessories, the feather for her hair, the roses. She can turn her head. She cannot move her arms, but she can turn her head. She has some rose too. She has another rose she can hold in her hand. There is a corset. All the clothes can be removed if you want to change once in a while your Marie Antoinette. You can do your own variation, of course. There is also a robe à la française with les plis watteaux on the back, which also can be open and put on your Marie Antoinette. So if it's something you would be interested to create, I think it's a very, very fun workshop. I really enjoy doing these dresses, and you can play. You can change the outfits, you create the wig and the hair, and you can really, really have a lot of fun creating these period historical paper dresses. Thank you very much for watching this little tea time, chatty tea time with Marie Antoinette. I hope it has given you some ideas or inspired you. Now, if you would like to take some inspiration of Marie Antoinette for your own outfits, your own clothes, what would you take? Would you be inspired this summer to wear some white, very beautiful light muslin fabric dresses, or you would like to have some florals, some striped patterns? I think definitely her outfits for the summer season is something we can really take some inspiration for our own slightly more modern dresses or skirts, but there are a lot of things we can imitate if we want to, with the ribbons, the beautiful light colors, the purple, the lilac, some yellow sometimes. She was not, it seems, wearing too much yellow, but all these colors I think are really inspiring and beautiful to wear in this season. I will leave you here. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss all the nice videos coming, and I hope to see you very soon. Un grand habit de gros de tour fond glacé argent, colonne d'or, en point d'Espagne et guirlande de nuances, composé d'un corset, d'une jupe et d'un bas de jupe, prisé et estimé à la somme de 120 livres. Une autre robe de chambre à la Château Renaud, aussi de taffetas noir, la robe chamarrée de taffetas et dentelle prisée et estimée ensemble à la somme de 24 livres. Item, une autre robe et un jupon de taffetas noir chamarré, prisé et estimé à la somme de 24 livres. Item, une robe de chambre sur panier de taffetas blanc à raie noire avec un jupon de pareil taffetas prisé et estimé à la somme de 36 livres. Item, une autre robe de chambre aussi sur panier avec son jupon de taffetas blanc à raie noire prisé et estimé ensemble à la somme de 36 livres.